The guy I've been stalking online turns out to be my stalker. Weirdly wholesome. My phone buzzed for the third time and I quickly declined my mom's call. I decided to send a quick text that I was on my way, only for someone to bump into me from behind. I dropped my entire shopping basket and let out a loud scream. Embarrassment, terror, and anger all swirled within me. This was the last thing I needed for my day to be ruined. Nervously, I looked down at the floor and gasped. All of the paint bottles had broken, the paint spilling out into a kaleidoscope of colors. It would have been beautiful if I had not just spent all my money on these paints. I bent down to salvage what I could, but was slightly knocked back when my forehead collided with someone else's. OMG, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to bump into you, the person who bumped into me said. Various complaints were already at the tip of my tongue, but they all vanished from my mind when I laid eyes on him. His eyes were like amber pools, a little flame burning in them. I was disarmed and lost all sense of myself. I could not believe that he was actually talking to me, that he was looking at me. Luck was surely on my side on that day, for I had bumped into the man whose thoughts gave me sleepless nights, the one who I looked forward to seeing on campus every day, but would never dare approach. Dane, the guy I have been crushing on for quite some time now, and who had absolutely no idea about my massive crush. My heart pounded in my chest, and all I could focus on was his hand grazing over mine as he helped pick up the items which had fallen. I was about to say something, but I was taken aback by the look on his face. It was hard to read, but intense would be the perfect word to describe it. It burned, and it made me very nervous. "What happened here?" one of the employees asked. "My fault, I was not looking at where I was going. I'll pay for all of this," Dane answered flatly, before I had a chance. The employee nodded and left us alone. We managed to salvage some items, but most of them were covered in paint. The employee ended up telling us to leave the mess for him to clean. I then walked with Dane to the register where he paid for the damaged items. "You don't have to, you know, it was an accident," I insisted, but he was adamant. "No, I want to. Painting is important to you. I would not want to ruin your day," he insisted. His intense gaze, which looked a lot like annoyance, made me shut up. I wondered if he was looking at me like that because he knew that I stalked him online. The thought of that terrified me, making me want to leave that shop immediately. In the end, I allowed him to pay and then got replacements for the broken items. He insisted on helping me pick up everything, which was a relief because my impatient mother was waiting for my return. Once we got everything, I paid, then we awkwardly stood there looking at each other. He looked like he wanted to say something, which scared me. I mean, what if he asked me why the hell I was stalking him online? With bated breath, I waited for him to say something, but he looked conflicted. After a while, I let out a nervous chuckle and said very awkwardly, "Guess I gotta go. Thanks." "Haha, no, you should not be thanking me. I am the reason why you got delayed. My fault for not wearing my glasses. I hate how I look with them," he sighed. "They look very good on you, though. Not that you look bad without them," I added hesitantly, knowing this was going worse than I thought. "Well, you do have amber eyes that would be a joy to paint, but what I'm trying to say is that you look good with the glasses," I yapped on, trying to redeem myself, even though I was digging myself into a bigger hole. He just watched me amusedly, not saying a word. "Anyways, I have to go," I laughed nervously before I skipped off. I was so embarrassed that the first time I spoke to him, I embarrassed myself like that. I had been planning our first conversation so that it would go smoothly, but somehow I messed it up. All I could think about for the rest of the day was how I messed up. The next day, I was sitting in the cafeteria talking to my friend Katie about our upcoming test when suddenly I lost all coherency. I started to stumble over my words, watching as Dane approached our table. It was unusual for him to be at the cafeteria at this time because we had different lunch schedules. When I saw my notebook in his hand, I was about to faint. It had to be that one out of all of them. Why? Why did it have to be the notebook where I had written about him for the past 6 months? I wanted the ground to swallow me whole at that moment, but I received no such reprieve. When he got to our table, he plopped the notebook down in front of me and then said, "I thought you might be missing this. You were in such a rush yesterday. I chased you, but you did not hear me." "Thank you so much," I said gratefully. I quickly grabbed the notebook and stashed it in my bag, hoping that he did not see what I had written in it. "No problem. Catch you later. By the way, cute book cover. Did you make it?" he asked. "Yeah, I made it," I smiled shyly. "It is cute," he winked, and then he left. Katie and I stared at each other for a moment until he was out of earshot before she started bombarding me with questions. "You've been hiding the fact that you and cute Dane are on speaking terms now? I'm so proud of you for finally speaking to him," she beamed proudly. "We bumped into each other yesterday at the art supply store. Nothing big," I nonchalantly explained. "Well, it is progress. At least you finally got a chance to speak to him instead of stalking his Instagram," she giggled teasingly. I forced a laugh back, knowing that she had no idea how fascinated I was by Dane. Ever since I saw him on the first day of school, I was infatuated. His beauty literally made my heart stop, and I took it upon myself to find out who he was. I have great internet sleuthing skills, so once I found out what his surname was in class, I searched the entire internet for him. I searched so deeply that I found his very first social media account. I was too shy to message him, so I started to interact on our mutual friends' posts. He liked one or two of my comments, but it never amounted to anything. He was always beyond my reach, and with each day, I fell deeper. I was especially fascinated with the skating videos that he posted online. I could watch those for hours and not get bored. I checked his profile every couple of days just in case he had posted. I only viewed them but never liked them. I was just so scared that he would find out who I was and think I was creepy. Well, it turned out that my vigilance was not good enough because later that evening, I got a text from an unknown number. "I swear I can do the trick you like 10 times better than 2 years ago," the message read. "Who is this?" I texted back immediately. I was now back at home listening to music while lazing around. "Dane, I noticed that you liked my skateboarding video from 2 years ago," he responded. I instantly felt nauseous. How could I have been so stupid as to like that video? I was always so careful. "Are you sure it was me? When?" I asked. "I saw the notification as I was heading to class after I gave you the notebook," he replied. I felt my body heating up in embarrassment. I cannot believe what I had done. I thought back to several hours ago and realized that I must have accidentally done it when he handed me my notebook because I was busy checking his profile out at that time. I took a couple of breaths to calm down, then I responded. "It must have come up on my feed. I watch a lot of skateboarding videos. I cannot remember the video though." I responded coyly. He started typing but then stopped. He did not say anything for a while, so I went back to my music. A couple of minutes later, I noticed that he had sent me 2 videos. The first video was the one I accidentally liked, then the second was one I had not seen before. I watched both of them and could see what he meant about being so much better now. What struck me about the second video was how much stronger he looked. How his muscles bulged out a little bit as he did the trick, and how carefree he looked. My heart skipped a beat, overwhelmed by him. "Wow, I'm speechless. I wonder how it feels to do something so impressive," I commented. "Says the genius," he responded. "What do you mean? I'm just a normal guy," I responded. "You are humble as well. Everyone knows that you are good at everything, academics, art, etc., he responded. "I'm not Leonardo da Vinci though, like you are making me out to be. Careful, you are going to give me a big head," I warned, blushing a little bit. I had no idea that I was even on his radar. To be noticed by him was all I had wished for. Each night I had fallen asleep fantasizing about the day that he would notice me, and here it was. It had manifested in a weird manner, but I was certainly going to grab that chance. So, before the conversation dwindled, I put out some bait. "I'm sure that if I even attempted to get on a skateboard, I would fall and embarrass myself," I sent the message. "Worry not, I will make sure to guide you well," he responded, bringing a smile to my face. "Well then, I'm sure you are a very good teacher," I said, feeling a buzz. Was it me, or were we actually flirting? "Then come over and I'll show you. I was about to head to the skate park," he responded. I paused a bit before responding. Firstly, I did not go out on weeknights. Those were reserved for coursework. It would be out of the ordinary for me to do so. However, what if this was a one-time offer from him that I would not get again? I paced around the room for a moment as I weighed my pros and cons. After a while, I had come to a decision. "Let me know where we can meet," I sent before I could change my mind. A couple of minutes later. "Are you cold?" Dane asked. We were sitting in the skate park while he explained the basics to me. There was no one else but us there, and my nervousness was getting to me. Due to this, my leg kept on shaking, even when I tried to get it to stop. No, I'm fine, I shook my head. I looked back at him and tried to pay attention to what he was saying, but it was difficult because his scent, his eyes, his soft skin all flooded my senses. The fact that we were breathing the same air was so surreal to me, and I felt as though I was in a dream. His calmness and confidence reeled me in like a fish on a hook. He had no idea how spellbound I was becoming just being in his presence. Okay, now, do you want to try getting on? He asked. Yes, I nodded, and then we got up. He walked me all the way to a flat ramp and then gestured for me to get on the skateboard. I took a deep breath and then put one leg on, and thus our lesson commenced. 1 hour later. I'm flying, I screamed as I whizzed through the ramp, the world a blur. It felt exhilarating, like I had discovered a new sense. I was alive. After a while, I came to a stop in front of him. He had a proud smile on his face, and he offered his hand for a fist bump. Not bad for a beginner. See, I told you that I was a good teacher, he grinned. You definitely are. I want to thank you. How can I asked. There is no need, he insisted. But you spent over an hour teaching me. You could have gotten so much done in that time, I insisted. Yes, but I had fun, so it's fine, he chuckled. Okay, but anyway, I have to head home. Thanks for the adventure, I smiled shyly. The pleasure is mine. Wait, let me see? He suddenly grabbed my hand. He turned it over and lightly caressed my palm. I noticed that there was a bit of a chafing, probably from one of the many times I fell. Not bad. Make sure not to apply too much pressure on your hand for the next couple of days. Let me walk you home. He beamed and let go of my hand. I sighed internally and my hand tingled. His touch alone drove me insane, and it was so difficult to control myself. I thought about it the entire night till I drifted off to sleep. A week later. I had no idea which wishing well I had accidentally thrown a coin in, but I was not complaining. Things only got better between us from that night at the skate park. I had no idea what a handsome, popular, and charismatic person like him saw in me, but I was not complaining. After months of pining for him, forming a friendship with him was more than I asked for. While I tended to overthink everything and was socially awkward, he was different. He navigated each and every one of our encounters with ease. At school, he greeted me, walked with me to classes, and acknowledged me more than before. I looked forward to each day at school because he would be there. I also hoped that he would ask to hang out with me again, but no such thing happened. I had almost given up on that until he sent me a text message on Thursday night. I'm going to Brody's house for a little game night. He said we can bring people over. Would you like to come? He texted me. Well, sure, but as long as it is not a party. I do not like parties, I responded. He said it is just games and no drinking or partying, which is why I knew you would like it, he replied. How did you know I do not drink? I asked, since it was very suspicious. You just do not seem like the type, he explained. Oh, so I'm not fun? I teased. At that moment, he called me. I panicked and stared at the phone for too long. Instead of clicking decline, I accepted the call. I screamed silently before saying hello. Hey, thought it'd be easier to call. I'm not much of a texter. His velvety voice instantly brought a smile to my face. I see. Me neither. Calling usually makes it easier to multitask. Now tell me more about this game night, I asked as I looked for something to doodle on. For the next 30 minutes we spoke. We only discussed the game night for a couple of minutes before switching to other topics. Although our conversation was light, it left me on cloud 9. I could not sleep because I was so excited to spend more time with him the next day, even if his friends were there. I was sure we would get some alone time. It did not mean I was going to make a move or anything. I was too nervous. Besides, I had no idea if he liked girls or guys. Maybe if I found out, it would make things easier. The following night, I arrived at the house on time and knocked hesitantly. A guy opened the door and greeted me. Hi, I'm Dane's friend Eric. I hope I'm not late. I brought some snacks, I said as I handed the snacks to the guy. Brody, it's nice to finally meet you, he said, giving me a weird smile. I shook it off and entered the house, deciding not to overthink. You're here, Dane yelled, and came to give me a hug as soon as he saw me. I melted into it for about 2 seconds before he let go. Before he fully let go, his arms were still around me, and I was 2 inches away from his eyes. While our eye contact only lasted for a second, it was scorching, leaving me with red cheeks. In order to distance myself, I offered to help out with anything that needed setting up. "Don't worry about it, just chill and have some snacks. We were just waiting for the others. My girlfriend should be on the way soon," Brody explained. Once he said that, I focused on the next thing, figuring out where to sit. I looked at Dane and he looked at me. I just wanted to sit next to him, but hated appearing desperate, so I sat adjacent to him. We then engaged in some casual talk while waiting for the others to arrive. Later that night, I had a lot of fun at the game night. After Brody's girlfriend arrived, 2 or more of their friends arrived, Mia and Josie. We played 30 Seconds, Monopoly, and card games. I cannot remember the last time I had so much fun. I usually just painted or read on Friday nights while other people had fun. I hated bars, so I did not engage, and all my friends lived too far to make plans. Spending time with Dane and his friends brought out pure bliss within me. They were all very nice and thoughtful, which made me feel more welcome. While the evening was going well, there was only one problem. Josie did not like me. When she first started acting rude toward me, I thought I was missing the social cues, so I let it go. However, as the evening progressed, I could tell she had it out for me. She said things like, "All of us might as well give up on the game because Eric basically swallowed an encyclopedia." Wait, are the paint stains on your hoodie artistic or happy accidents? Just asking, because some people say they paint but are posing because it's their personality trait. And worst of all, you actually got on a skateboard without a helmet? You don't seem like the type to make reckless choices. Just joking, skateboards don't need helmets. I felt slightly uncomfortable, but I decided not to say anything to Dane. As a guest, it was required of me to be gracious at all times either way. Game night was going well, but at some point, I needed to use the bathroom. "Let me show you. It's upstairs," Brody offered, and then he took me there. I was in there for a hot minute, thinking of how shy I'd been to even look Dane in the eyes all night. I thought there would be some alone time at some point, but so far there was nothing. I told myself that the next time there was a chance, I would sit next to him. After using the bathroom, I tried to rejoin the others, but I was faced with a problem. I did not remember the way back. Brody's house was too big for me to navigate, it appeared. With each hallway that I turned into, I got lost until I found myself on a balcony. A lone silhouette stood on that balcony. Curious, I approached this person standing there and said, "Hi." "Oh, I thought no one else would be up here. I just needed to catch a breath," Dane said. I paused. Dane? Where had he come from? "Are you okay, Dane?" I asked. He turned around and smiled at me sadly. "I thought you sneaked out due to how dramatic Josie is acting." "I'm so sorry about that," he explained. "So it was not in my head. I wonder what I did to make her dislike me so much," I pondered. Dane let out a small laugh and then sighed. He looked torn between telling me something and keeping quiet. "She is just like that. Do not mind her," he looked down. "Dane, I might not socialize a lot, but I'm very good at telling when people are lying. Right now, you are lying through your teeth," I confronted him. "You would not understand," he sighed. "Try me," I insisted. "No, let us just leave this." He looked into my eyes. He was practically pleading with me to drop it, so I did. "Sorry for pressurizing you. I just wanted to know if I did something to offend her," I said softly. "You can never do anything to hurt anyone. That would be impossible. You are so nice, kind, and considerate," he complimented me. I beamed from the compliment and dropped the matter. "Okay, thank you. Let me leave you to be. I must go back to the others," I smiled as I turned away. "Let us go back in together," Dane offered. So we went back to the others together, and this time I sat next to him. I noticed Josie shooting daggers at me several times, but I ignored her. 2 weeks later. After the game night, I hung out with Dane several more times. I had never been a person to try new things or even leave the house on a weeknight, but when he called me, I met him immediately. It was like he had the strings and I was willing to be led anywhere. We often visited his skate park where I watched him perform some cool tricks as I doodled. I drew him a few times, but I never showed him since I was not ready to confess my feelings yet. I feared rejection because Josie seemed to want him. One night, I was bored and texted him, "Hey, Mom went to her book and wine club. would you like to hang out with me for a little bit? I asked. Of course, I'm at this party, but it sucks a little bit. Something weird just happened, he shared. Oh, you should tell me all about that when you are here, I sent back. As I was texting him, I got a social media notification. Josie, of all people, had requested to follow me, which was so out of the blue. Cautiously, I accepted her follow request and then went back to giving Dane my address. Thanks, Eric. We'll be there in a couple of minutes, he sent. As soon as I saw the text, I started to run around the house tidying up. I wanted to give the perfect first impression because what he thought about me really mattered. As I was cleaning, I checked my phone and saw that I had 10 messages from Josie. Hey, just wanted to tell you, be careful of Dane. He is not who you think he is, was the first message. I have proof that he has been stalking you. He's a creep and not really a true friend, she said before sending screenshots to me. In those screenshots, he was talking to her about me and how he had been caught following me to the art store. In addition, he confessed to stalking me around campus because he was too shy to talk to me in person. Apparently, he had been doing that for several months now. Josie's last message was, he's not really your homie. He's a gay freak or something and wants what he cannot have. I exited that conversation and sat down. I started to digest all that had been told to me. I was buzzing and my head was racing. The urgency in her message could not be ignored. If she was his friend and was telling on him like this, then maybe he was not the one who I thought he was. Shivers went down my spine as I remembered how I had been around him a lot. Who knew what he was thinking the whole time? As I was getting lost in my thoughts, there was a knock on the door. It had to be him. Of course, I panicked, unsure of what to do now that he was here. Did I let him in or believe Josie and stay away from him? At that very moment, my phone started ringing. I checked the caller ID, which showed that it was Dane calling. I stood there conflicted about whether I was going to let him in or not. Was he someone that I wanted to be alone with? I took a deep breath and made the slow march to the door. As soon as I opened the door, he cheerily greeted me and came in for a hug. His hugs usually made me feel warm, but on that day, I felt incredibly cold. Hey, come in, I said, and stepped inside. I'm so glad that you messaged me. That party sucked. I cannot wait to tell you all about it, he blabbed on. Oh, I said, leading him to the living room. Do you want something to drink? I asked him. Just some water, thanks, he said. My heart was thundering while my thoughts swelled in confusion. I kept on thinking about Josie's message and what she meant. I knew I had to say something, but I could not bring myself to. Instead, I gave his water and put on the TV. We watched some random program while he tried to have a conversation with me, but I shut him off at every turn. Okay, you are acting weird, he announced. Takes one to know one, I responded. What the hell is going on? You are the one who called me here. I thought you wanted to spend time with me. But since the moment I stepped in, you're just pushing me away, his voice raised. Yes, I called you here, but only because I didn't know what a liar you were, I responded in my coldest tone. What? He sounded shocked. I looked through my phone and got to Josie's messages, which I showed to him saying, Why the hell are you stalking me around? The way he lost all color on his face and began to stutter clearly showed how everything Josie said was true. He had indeed been following me around. I can explain, he said in a quiet voice, while trying to look away from my eyes like a guilty criminal. I can't believe that I was hanging out with a damn stalker all this time. I regretted the words as soon as they left my mouth, but I was too furious to even care. It's not what you think. He stopped, unable to continue whatever he was saying. I mean, obviously, how could he justify this? I bet you must have had some noble intentions for keeping me in the dark like this, but I am not going to stand here and be lied to again, so you might as well leave. I don't want to hear anything, I said, even though it hurt me so much to push him away like this. I couldn't believe he had been following me around all this time, and I thought of him as a pure man genuinely interested in me. Eric, please, he tried to say before I cut him off. No, please leave, I said, pointing to the door. I just couldn't muster the courage to listen to whatever weak excuse he had to give for his actions, 'cause I was afraid whatever he would tell me would just break my heart further. I mean, how can you actually justify following someone around? And just like that, he left without uttering any other word, hurt written clearly on his face. 3 days later, Dane had been trying to call me to reach out to me for the last 3 days, but I was the one ignoring all his calls. I mean, after the fight we had, I just couldn't talk to him like everything was okay. And now that my anger had subsided, I also felt guilty lately for not even giving him a chance to explain himself. But I was scared. All of this was just so sudden that I didn't know what to think. Yet, even in those moments where I was angry at him, I couldn't help but go check his profile online to see if he or his friends had posted anything. Just wanted to know how he was doing, but there was nothing on his profile to tell me what's up with him lately. Though my online adventures couldn't give me any progress on the whole Dane situation, it did help me reach a big realization of how I had been a hypocrite all this time. I mean, wasn't what I was doing similar to what Dane had done in a way? Even though I was angry at him, he deserved to know the whole story. He also deserved to tell his side of the story, cause if the tables had been turned and he had called me out on my online stalking, I would have been so desperate to tell him what led to it. I mean, what if Dane also had some reasons for what he did? This is why I texted Dane to meet me at my house tomorrow after class to clear all this mess out. The next day. "Thank you for giving me a chance to explain myself," Dane said as soon as he made his way inside my house. I told him to get comfortable before we actually talked about the whole thing. "I am really so sorry for how things came out. I get why you're mad at me, but just hear me out once," he said in the most genuine of tones. I mean, how could I not give him a chance? Though I also had something major to confess to him. I let him go on with his reasoning since I was curious about his reasons for doing so. I just nodded and he continued. "I know this will sound crazy, but I was not actually stalking you. I mean, in a way I was, but not in some crazy obsessive way. It's just," he stopped for a moment, but I nudged him to go on because I was already melting by the softness in his voice. "It's just that I liked you so much and I didn't actually know how to approach you, so I thought if I am at the same place as you, you might notice me, or if I'm fortunate enough we might talk, and that's exactly what happened at the art store." I was shocked. So this guy whom I had been crushing on for over 6 months liked me back and went out of his way just to get a chance to talk to me? God, what a fool I had been to shout at him while all this time I was doing the same sort of thing. I feel like a jerk. I should have handled things better and given you a chance to explain yourself earlier, I said, voicing out my thoughts. "No, it's not your fault. Anyone would have reacted the same way," he said, trying to comfort me, but he didn't know the whole story yet. "I guess you wouldn't feel the same way once you know the whole thing." As soon as I said this, the nervous look on Dane's face was replaced by confusion. But I couldn't let it deter me, so I went on. "I should have told you this sooner, but I too had a huge crush on you, and all this time I had been stalking you online. I just didn't think you would feel the same way," I confessed, expecting Dane to shout at me, but his lips turned slightly into a playful smile. "So you're saying we both liked each other, but were too scared to confess?" he said with a chuckle, which seemed to ease the nervousness in me. "Yeah," I smiled and continued. "I would blame my introverted self for this. I just couldn't gather the courage to talk to you, afraid of rejection, so I continued admiring you online." A shy smile came across Dane's face at this as he said, "Well, I was too scared to approach you because you are quiet and basically a genius. I did not think you would want to speak to someone as unremarkable as me," he said shyly. My jaw dropped in disbelief. "You? Unremarkable? No way. I think you are more than that. You have made my life more exciting ever since you bumped into me at that art store," I confessed excitedly. We gazed into each other's eyes for a moment, finally acknowledging the fact that we had hidden feelings for each other. It felt right at the moment to step forward and cup his cheek. His beautiful amber eyes then gave me the permission I needed to kiss his wonderfully soft lips. When I kissed him, so much fell into place. It felt so right and filled my heart to the brim, and everything that was said and done before was forgiven in that moment. We stayed there quietly enjoying the moment we had waited for so long before Dane broke the silence. "Let's start it right this time. No more secrets, no more lies." "What do you mean?" I asked him, hopeful that he meant what I thought he did. "I mean, it's time I finally gathered the courage to ask you out. So tell me, would you do me the honor of going on a date with me?" He flashed one of his shy smiles at me as he looked at me in the eyes. I would love to, I chuckled and closed the gap between our lips again. Conclusion. The week after that, we went on our first official date. It was nothing fancy, but Dane had set up a very pretty picnic and it went amazing. As for Josie, when Dane's friends found out what Josie did, they cut her off. We kept our relationship private from everyone and for some time, but soon we made it public and our friends were quite supportive. The end. Have you ever stalked anyone online because you were too shy to approach them? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to become part of our Rainbow Force. And stay wholesome.